go over here and I'm going to point at a few things. So that's the title. When I was given the challenge, I guess the first thing I did actually was try and turn my thesis into a haiku. And I'll give you the first two lines and leave the last one as a teaser, which is, engineers know stuff, can computers know it too? So really the core bit of the thesis was about that. Can you encode engineering judgment in a computing system? And it came from my PhD supervisor had seen a paper titled Data Rich, Information Poor. And what that was about was that people were collecting a lot of data, but they were really struggling to interpret it. So he had this bright idea and got a Research Council grant to build an artificial intelligence system to try and help interpret the data. So I worked on that. There were two major themes to my work. One of them was instrumenting bridges and dams and breakwaters. So that's me up a cherry picker putting an anemometer on a lamppost in the north of Scotland. That's one of my colleagues trying to weld a strain gauge onto a fish farm with the waves breaking over him, so that was all good fun. The second theme of it really was trying to interpret the signals that came out of that. So that's an accelerometer trace that measures how a bridge moves. That's the anemometer trace that shows how fast the wind is going. And what engineers do when they interpret this kind of stuff is they plot this kind of diagram where you plot the bridge movement against the wind speed, and you can see that the harder the wind blows, the more it moves. You've got a diagram like this, which is trying to show the relationship between the wind speed, the structure of the wind on a physical scale, and how much the bridge moves around. Now, as human beings, we're quite good at interpreting those kind of things. We have that natural ability. It's much more difficult in computers. So what I was doing was writing rules to try and interpret those signals, working on pattern grammars to try and kind of squash the data down so that computers could work on it. And one of the things that was a real problem then, of course, was that computing equipment was very expensive. I went back and found my PhD notebooks, and 2 megabytes of RAM was current cost about $2,200, and that's that's 1,000th as much as we give away on a USB stick. So a lot of it was about trying to squash it down so you could actually operate on it. I also read an awful lot of philosophy to try and understand the philosophical basis of how people understand things and how cognition works. But really, because of the technological limitations, the key conclusion was that actually you could only do it in a very limited domain at that point. Now, if you fast forward to today, of course, we've got this. We have speech recognition. We have handwriting recognition actually available in our pocket. And you'd actually use a completely different approach. You'd use neural nets these days rather than rule-based systems to try and do the job. To add the third line of the haiku then, really the conclusion was engineers know stuff. Can computers know it too? It's complicated. And with a little bit of time left on the clock, Miriam, go the Maroons. Thank you.